To me, it seems like Cardano is refusing to stop. At a time when the sentiment isn't the best, Cardano seems to be thinking the opposite, at least in terms of the Cardano Foundation, because a lot of other projects out there, they're slowing down. This seems to be speeding up. Case in point, take a look at a recent post they made. The Cardano Foundation just recently announced that they're going to be sponsoring the European Blockchain Convention, and it's going to go on from the 16th of September to the 17th of September in Barcelona, Spain. Of course, this is kind of legendary stuff right here, in my opinion, when it comes to Cardano. Now, I want to say, though, nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Yes, I get it. People oftentimes like to really care about the price as of right now, but there isn't really too much to go off of there. But one thing we do know, though, is that even the Cardano Foundation, they recently made a post saying how they're quite essentially in Las Vegas. At least, I'm assuming some of the team is, because if we take a look at it, for instance, remember when I made a video talking about how they're planning to attend Rare Evo, this alleged conference or whatever? Not only just a random conference, right? It's allegedly the premier blockchain conference, and it's going to be in Las Vegas, and they're there right now. So we got to think about this. Their campaign in 2026 seems like it's stronger than ever before. They're attending Rare Evo. They're going to be sponsoring a convention or a conference or whatever in Barcelona, Spain later on. And they're also going to be attending another conference, or an event, I should say, in Switzerland, which is also going to happen later on this year. So could you imagine that? A lot of other projects out there, they can't do this type of stuff. But Cardano's doing it in terms of the Cardano Foundation. And keep in mind, in that particular convention in which they're going to be sponsoring in Barcelona, Spain, which I'm going to show on the screen, by the way, but besides that, now if I take a look at that right there, allegedly both Frederick, which we all know is the CEO of the Cardano Foundation, however, also someone by the name of Sandro, which is the global business development lead at the Cardano Foundation, they're going to take the stage at that convention. And they're going to, I guess, talk and say things, I guess. And I think it's not a bad thing, because imagine, right, at that convention, there's going to be probably people from large entities, people from large businesses, other projects out there who might have their team attend that convention. And Cardano, it's slowly but surely putting itself out there. Again, attending Rare Evo, which is going on in Las Vegas. Apparently, they're going to be attending, the European Blockchain Convention in Barcelona. And then also there's going to be one that they're going to be attending later on this year, like a convention or an event in Zurich, Switzerland. So we got to let that all sink in. Cardano is treating 2026 very seriously. ADA is around 6 times away from $1, basically. And we saw $1 pretty much last year. $1 last year seemed quite not so good when it comes to ADA, considering how its all-time high was around $3. But right now we're so low. We're 6 times away from $1, basically. If it could go back there, you already know where I'm going to Sizzler, the restaurant. And with the fundamentals and Cardano putting itself out there as of right now, would it surprise me if ADA could go back there? It wouldn't surprise me at all. When will it happen? I have no idea. It might take years, maybe. But I'm willing to wait for years. So I'm not going to, be so concerned over short-term price movements. That's not the case. I focus on the fundamentals, because the fundamentals are what is going to allow anyways a project to mostly survive through market downturns to begin with. So as long as I'm seeing a project continue to develop and innovate, I don't mind holding. Given at a time like this, when a lot of people are leaving, when a lot of people are giving up, they understand that some other projects out there, they may not make it. So at a time when some other projects are not making it, they're using it as their sort of time to kind of showcase what they're actually capable of. And they're showcasing how that even at a time like this, they're not giving up. They're leading by example. That's what I like seeing. Just because, it's not like they're all day complaining about the price chart of ADA, complaining about, why are a lot of people leaving? That's not what they're doing. They're not complaining, they're actually doing. That's the difference. I see some other projects out there, they say, because of market conditions, we're not going to be doing this or doing that. The Cardano Foundation's not doing that. When have I ever seen them complain about the market conditions as of late? I just haven't seen it, because it showcases to me that they don't view this as a negative time for them. They still view it as a time when they're going to continue to do what they do. They treat it like just any other Tuesday, it seems like. It's just a routine for them at this point. They continue to build, they continue to put themselves out there, and they're just not stopping. It's not about the price, but again, it just doesn't seem like they're stopping. And here's the thing. What I like about Cardano as well is that other projects out there seem quite moody, right? Again, in a sense where if the market isn't doing the best, they're not going to want to do anything. But I think some of these projects sometimes fail to realize that what they do right now could eventually matter later on. You know what I mean? Like, not everything is going to matter at the exact time it happens, but it could matter eventually, later. It's like, okay, we take a look at how Spain, they won the World Cup, right? And coincidentally, the Cardano Foundation is going to be sponsoring a convention in Barcelona, Spain later on this year. But I'm just saying, if we take a look at, the athletes that performed in the World Cup, they did the training years beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, it took years to build up to that point, right? So it's a little bit no different. Again, if a project refuses to continue to develop or build during at a time like right now, it's going to be really tough for it to kind of maybe stand out later, because people are going to take a look back and say, hey, you gave up at that point, right? They're going to say, hey, what happened? These projects, they gave up back then. Why are they suddenly making noise now? Sometimes people just don't like seeing that. So I like what Cardano is doing. Again, they're not being lazy, they're not being complacent, and they're not demotivated. If anything, it seems like they're motivated. And I think from the recent actions that I'm seeing so far, Cardano is kind of silencing the critics in a sense where a lot of people out there say that Cardano doesn't advertise enough. But by attending those events, by sponsoring conventions and stuff like that, that's really putting themselves out there. So that's kind of indirect advertising in and of itself, in my opinion. And I think it's a little bit more effective than like advertising through a celebrity in some cases, just because some of these projects, they hire celebrities to talk about their project. But what does that really do? Like, the audience is a little bit different, because some of these celebrities, the audience may not be too interested about a project within this space, right? But when it comes to Cardano, because they're selectively choosing these conventions, these events, these conferences, people who attend that are already naturally inclined anyways to care about, blockchain technology, to care about this space. They're already naturally inclined anyways to care about that, because they're attending a blockchain event to begin with. In which case means that they're showing at least some interest to that, I guess, concept or that technology, right? So if anything, what Cardano is doing as of right now in terms of the Cardano Foundation, I find it a lot more effective in terms of indirect advertising. By attending those events, by having booths at those events, it's really going to showcase itself to more people out there, give a more, close experience. And also on top of that, it's just more effective, in my opinion, than random advertising. This is a lot more, I think, just of this more strategic idea or method in terms of what they're doing, as opposed to what some other projects are doing in terms of the advertising side of things. But yeah, besides that point though, ADA as of right now, surprisingly in the past month alone, the recovery has been around 10%, which, isn't really too much in the grand scheme of things, but still, it's pretty surprising considering how a lot of projects out there are actually down in the past month. But this is all background noise to me anyways. I'm still holding, I'm still waiting, because if they can make it through the market downturn and they can see that light, right? If they can go to that light at the end of the tunnel and actually make it through to a moment in which the market were to recover, some of these more established projects, which ADA is ranked 15th in the world as of right now, they don't usually get forgotten about if the market were to recover. So I think the biggest mission as of right now when it comes to Cardano is just making it through this market downturn. That's kind of it. The rest, it already has the fundamentals, already has, the exposure. All it needs now is just a big change in market sentiment. That's kind of it. That's the missing hypothetical ingredient, right? So I don't mind waiting for that though. But I'm not telling anyone to do anything. And again, it's just my personal perspective. But recently seeing how Cardano is going to be sponsoring the European Blockchain Convention, which is going to be happening from the 16th to the 17th of September in Barcelona, Spain, I just thought that was pretty impressive. I'll be making more updates moving forward though. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you so much for watching.